Hey guys, it's Patty here. Thank you guys so much for watching our videos. I have a really special interview today of a woman who wrote a message into Candida Cleanser because of something really interesting that happened at the end of her cleanse. So we'll leave that as a little surprise. I'd like to go ahead and open the floor and have Sheila introduce herself. So welcome, Sheila. Thanks so much for being here today. Why don't you tell us your name and a little bit about yourself and what you were experiencing that made you start to pinpoint Candida and decide to go on this journey.
Sure. I'm glad to be here. My name is Sheila, and I'm from Missouri in the United States. So I'm from, the Midwest, and we were kind of raised on sweet tea. So I have a feeling that the sweet tea issue is probably part of the whole problem. I can blame it all on my mom. But my issue started way back when I was in actually second grade. I actually had an issue with pneumonia. I had chicken pox. And then all of a sudden I had arthritis, which is kind of crazy in second grade to have arthritis. Wow. And I still don't know the reason why that happened. Basically, they did a spinal tap to check my fluids and stuff, and they did send me home. But it was obviously pretty scary. And then ever since then, I had a lot of joint pain. So I grew up with a lot of issues with my knees and joints, and never understood it. And a lot of people would give me ice packs, and then we finally figured out a heating pad was probably the best for it. And also as a child, I had a lot of issues with strep, and so I had a lot of medicines to get over strep. And I think I would wear myself out and get tired, and then the strep would kind of come as an after effect. And so probably a lot of medical medicines and stuff, directed towards that. In high school, I know I had thrush one time, and in high school, I started to develop hives. And my mom had hives when she was younger. And so you kind of just assume that maybe it's genetic, you'll just get hives. And we never had an answer for the reason. And I finally did get food testing done on my arms, and they couldn't find anything. So I just lived basically miserably for probably the next 10 years with these hives. And they're not hives like people picture, lumps and, bumps that you would itch. Mine weren't necessarily itchy. Mine were more sore. And they would show up if I carried a purse strap. It would, develop a hive. Or if I went bowling and I exerted my arm a bunch of times, I would get more hives or joint pain again. And so I kind of felt like I was maybe a 70-year-old lady's body. And, I could never truly understand why I kept getting all these painful joint problems. I'd get them in my knees. I'd get them in my neck. So I lived with this for a long time. And before I before I got married, this was right when I got out of high school, we went and seen another doctor because, my mom was struggling for answers. So they put me on a high doses of penicillin shots and injections. So wow. I did these penicillin injections for about a year. And then when I got married, they became really, really bad. And I think stress related. And so the hives were so bad that I did get a steroid shot, even though we knew it was probably not good for me, but all it did was mask, the look of my hives. I just looked puffy, but I didn't have hives. So we moved to Texas, and they ended up getting worse there, full blown. Then my husband got stationed in Germany, and they actually got better over there for some reason. And I don't know if it's just, the atmosphere or whatever, but they cleared up, but I still had a lot of joint pain. We came back to finish up college, and I got hives really bad again. I even remember being on my college apartment floor, and I was crawling because I was just in so much pain. And it was an older college room and stuff. And finally, you have these highs and lows where you think you're feeling okay, and then you hit rock bottom again, and you go back to the doctor, and you're desperately looking for answers from them. Of course, they go through the, are you depressed? Are you this? Are you that? And they're just trying to give you, medicine, I feel, to help you alleviate something. But I knew there was something wrong with me for a long time. And of course, I just felt like I was a lucky person to have all these ailments that nobody had a solution for. So I just felt that was just me, just deal with it. So about 2005, I did go see an allergist, and my regular doctor just said it's worth a try. And I just kind of laughed it off. I'm like, I've been through food, but he said, do airborne, you know. So I did go see an allergist, and he came back with, I'm allergic to ragweed, cats, dogs, pollens, molds. So I felt relieved that I at least had an answer. So my magic drug was Zyrtec. So I started taking Zyrtec, but that would help with the hives and stuff, but I still had the joint pain. And I'd go through these cycles of, you know, wanting to get healthy. So I would exercise and thinking maybe that would help. But then as soon as I would overexert myself, then that joint pain would come back. So it was kind of a catch-22. You can only do so much before your body says, no, you're done. I can't help you anymore, you know. So then I would get strep again, and it was just a vicious cycle. So it was nice to at least have the Zyrtec, because I feel like it does give me a little break and alleviate some of the issues. But I have always started researching things on the internet, because I feel like the newest, latest, and greatest, you know, things are always coming out, and I feel like you got to kind of stay on top of your own health. And maybe about 4 years ago, I looked into sugar and yeast, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just eliminate both sugar and yeast. And I can eliminate breads pretty easily, but sugar is really hard for me, obviously, because I probably craved it all the time. But I started doing a 6-week no sugar, no yeast, and immediately I noticed skin difference. My thinking was more clear. I mean, it was just crazy how well I felt just from even just a week. You know, my hair looked different. And I've always been like a puffy faced, I feel, type person. And I feel like I look pasty or doughy. It's kind of hard to explain. But even after being on that cleanse, or, you know, just that little diet, even after a couple of weeks, people are like, oh, you've lost weight. And I'm like, no, I haven't. But, you know, irritatingly, it was nice to hear. But at the same time, I hadn't lost anything, but my face had just gotten thinner. And I didn't even cheat on that diet. I didn't eat, you know, even sugar-free gum or anything. I just ate really clean things without labels, you know, such, you know. And it was really hard, but I wanted to stick with it just to see how it would turn out. So it convinced me that I did have an issue with sugar for sure, you know, that it was more of an allergy even to me, because I looked so much better and felt so much better. And I always said, you know, I would stick with it, but it's just so hard to eliminate sugar. So again, you know, searching on the internet, I came across the Candida information and everything. And I was excited to learn, you know, and a lot of people probably would look at your symptoms that, you know, I have pulled up here, and they would be kind of skeptical and maybe depressed looking at them. But I was excited because I've been dealing with this for so long. It's just nice to have an answer to what all my problems were. And I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism as well. So I've been taking, you know, Synthroid maybe for 12 years or so. And even when the doctor prescribed that to me, he said, you'll feel so much better. You'll have energy. And as soon as I took it, I'm like, I don't feel anything. It doesn't do anything for me. And of course, all my, when they retest the blood, it was all in normal range. And I think what's normal to you might not be, you know, I just think there's normal for everybody. So I really don't like taking drugs at all. So I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't doing anything for me. And I recently stopped taking it just to see if I would feel better, and maybe I'd start with a new baseline to see what my levels were. And I went to the doctor in, I think, April, and he went ahead and rechecked my blood. And I did tell him that I hadn't been taking my thyroid, so he made sure he checked that. And I did tell him that I just did do a Candida cleanse. And he, of course, you know, we agreed to disagree on the whole yeast in your body issue and everything. But I did go ahead and tell him that my period was even 4 days late. And he says, well, do you want to test for pregnancy? And I'm like, well, you can. I mean, at the time I'm, you know, 43, and I'm thinking, well, surely I'm not pregnant. But since, you know, I did do the cleanse and things were a little bit different, I just thought, well, he might as well check it while I'm here. So he called me in 2 hours, and he informed me that I was pregnant. So that was kind of crazy and shocking and unexpected. And I know I messaged you to ask if that was, you know, something that could possibly happen. And you're like, yeah, it's all documented. But it wasn't something I was looking for. I was looking for all the other problems that I had, you know, the sugar cravings and the fatigue especially, but all the joint pain that I have that make me feel like an old lady. And I think the biggest thing for me was I had read about yeast, and we all have yeast in our body. And it's just a natural process of how your body breaks down when we pass away. And I thought, that's exactly what's happened to me while I'm living. I just felt the yeast was deteriorating me and making me basically fade away and not make me be myself, you know. So sorry I'm talking so much.
No, it's amazing to hear your journey, and there were just moments in there where I was like really connecting with what you were going through too, because I was on Claritin for probably like 20 years, you know, and it just stopped working as well too. It wasn't a solution. It was just a Band-Aid. So, okay. So now, wow, amazing. So then you got pregnant right after the cleanse, but tell me about the experience of the cleanse itself. Did you have a lot of die-off symptoms? And did you notice your symptoms, the other physical symptoms that you did the cleanse for? Did you start noticing them starting to go away? And how are those symptoms now?
Yeah, the fatigue was a big one, and brain fog I know was a bad one, because I remember even driving over to, you know, another town to go shopping, and I just thought, I am not myself. There is something wrong with me. And I'm kind of the person that holds my family together, and I'm like a solid rock. And I'm like, if I can't do this, then everything's falling apart, you know? So you get a little freaked out because you know something's not right, but you don't know how to fix it. You know, you're always looking for an answer. But when I started taking the cleanse, I actually started documenting, and then, you know, I kind of got a little away from it, but I felt a little constipated, and then I said my boobs were sore, and my boobs have always been an issue with me because they seem to always kind of get enlarged, or soreness, you know, which, you know, is very annoying to me. And my periods have always been really, really, really heavy. And I've, you know, discussed it with the doctor, and he said to go on birth control, which is kind of ironic now that, you know, I didn't go on birth control. But my periods can be in one day. I mean, I will just bleed and bleed and bleed, and my period will be in one day, and the next day I won't bleed at all. It's just crazy. And a lot of people are like, well, if you bleed in one day, then that's a bonus. You're done. But you can't go anywhere. You know, you pretty much have to stay at home. So I noted that I had slight brain fog when I started, and I had some body aches and joint pains. I had actually just started walking on the Fitbit and tracking my mileage and my water intake and food intake. And I noticed even just walking on the treadmill, my 10,000 steps, I would feel joint pain in my hips just from walking. And I'm like, come on, I'm walking. I'm not even exerting myself, you know? So I just noted that that's what was happening. And then I kept taking Zyrtec. And then the days that I was on, I had a little bit of a sore throat. And then I noticed that, you know, I started to have really good bowel movements, you know, which I feel like I'm up and down with bowel movements anyway. I noted on day 2 that my brain feels good. I slept well. There was no stiffness. You know, even when I'm laying down, I could be in a position for maybe 10 minutes. And then when I try to turn, I'm already stiff, you know, and it makes me think a rigor mortis is setting in, you know, like I'm just an old person laying there in bed. I felt like even on day 2, the color of my face was better. I didn't look so pale. I put still soreness in my legs, you know, probably from walking. And then day 3, I put I felt good. Day 4, I put I had brain fog. Day 5, I had trouble sleeping. And then I started getting a little bit of headache, and I had some symptoms, kind of like sinus symptoms, and aches and pains, and a low-grade fever, a sore throat, and then I had some chest pain. And then I had a miserable sleep, I noted. So I woke up feeling better, and I put most symptoms were gone, and I put the throat was slightly sore. But then I started getting hives on my lip, and hives have always been an issue, as I noted, and they came full bore. And I know that when you read about everybody's testimonies or you listen to them, I think that's what I was most worried about. I thought if I've already went through all these hives and the joint pain, I'm like, can I actually tolerate full-blown toxic leaving my body? And what's that mean for me? So I went ahead and I took pictures with my cell phone. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on here or not, but can you see it?
Wow. Yeah, lift it up a little higher.
But this is what my face looked like with all the hives. You know, my eyes are puffy and my lips are puffy, and you know, when I look at it now, I think, you know, wow. I mean, usually when I get a hive, it might be 1 or 2 on my lips, or maybe 1 in my eye. And this day, I had actually gotten them, you know, pretty much all over my face. And I noticed that they would go away maybe on the top lip, and then they would move to my bottom lip. But I kind of knew what to expect at least. So it was still okay because I felt like I knew what was happening, you know, that I was getting it out of my body. So that was the worst of it for me.
And that was how far into the cleanse when you had that?
I have it down as March 1st.
So a little, probably more than halfway, almost. You
the
had
March
like
16th,
one more
yeah,
cycle.
March 16th was my last day of taking the cleanse. So, yeah.
Was it the 16th, the last day of pills, or the last 10 days? And
I think that was the last day of pills.
Okay. Okay, cool. So that was probably about halfway. So then when you, towards the end, getting closer to March 16th, to the end of the pills, how were you feeling then? And were you starting to notice that some of the issues, long-standing issues that you had were leaving the body? Like how did you feel then?
Yeah, I actually felt pretty good. I take tons of photos for people and sports events and stuff, and I'm always behind the camera, and I don't like pictures of myself. But when I went back through my cell phone and found these pictures that I could share with you, I noticed that I had taken some selfies and some things. So I felt like my face didn't look quite as, you know, puffy and round and quite as pasty. So I had taken some pictures of myself, and hives had gotten better, but I still get them now, but the joint pain has been so much better. I mean, it's crazy, and it's hard to say how much has changed and been right, because obviously I haven't had a period, you know, because I got pregnant.
Right.
And so I'm anxious to find out about that. And overall, no brain fog. I mean, I feel so much happier. And again, with the pregnancy, you don't know what is, you know, real and not real, but I mean, I feel great, and I'm actually really excited about doing it again. I would like to do the cleanse and maybe add a few more things to get rid of some toxins, because I still have hive issues. And you said you were taking Claritin, so I assume that you are over your allergies completely, or?
I don't have them. I mean, if I eat something, or actually it's been 4 years since I did my very first bottle of Candida Cleanser. And the first year I was still reactive if I ate something wrong, quote unquote wrong. But now that it's been 4 years, I can eat a lot of things that I couldn't eat before without any kind of allergic reaction. And I think now it just the Candida function operates like normal in my body. Like if I eat a little bit too much of something that I'm not supposed to have, I might notice a little pimple. And that's really the normal way that Candida should manifest when it's not systemic. So I haven't been on allergy medicine anymore. And a lot of my friends, I mean, I used to be chronically congested, all in my right side, but it's been gone for a few years now. It's so liberating, because it used to be such a part of my daily life. But what I would recommend for you probably is milk thistle. It's a very gentle herb, very non-toxic too. You probably can take it while pregnant, and it helps support your liver function. So if you do feel like there's still some toxins floating around, it'll help. You can also take activated charcoal, and that's also a very non-toxic. You can't overdose. It won't affect your pregnancy, but it'll bind toxins and then draw them out through your stool. You'll just poop it out. So those are things you can do now that I believe will be safe. You might want to check on the milk thistle, but I know for sure the activated charcoal you can do. And then you could do like a modified GAPS diet. Will just keep sealing your gut and healing your gut. But I'm really excited to hear that your joint pain has reduced so much. It's crazy and wild to me that you started to experience that in second grade, and that you've been dealing with it since then.
And what really stinks is, you know, I've got, you know, older kids that always want to do things. So when they say, let's go play tennis, I play tennis with them, you know, for 2 or 3 hours, but I know the next 2 days I'm going to be really sore. I mean, I can even mash potatoes with a hand masher, and I will have a ring of soreness on my hand that I won't be able to use for 2 days. I mean, it just takes that long to get rid of that soreness. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. And when I try to tell this to doctors, they're like, there's no way, you know, because a lot of times I can't show them physical evidence. It's not always a hive. Sometimes it's just inside, you know. It's funny that you mentioned liver too, because sometimes I feel like it's enlarged, not now, but, you know, before. I felt like it was swollen or something, you know, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, you know, or.
I used to feel that a lot. And when I first started taking the milk thistle, I actually had some detox as allergies. It kicked up allergies, and I think it was just the toxins coming out of the liver and moving through the mucous membranes being released and stuff like that. But I'm curious, like, so you're saying like you used to be able, so now when you do the exercise or you walk and stuff, how does that compare with your joints to before the cleanse?
I mean, right now I feel fine. And again, you know, since I'm pregnant,
like no pain?
No, I'm no pain. And since I'm pregnant, I'm not necessarily eating probably the best because I'm eating for the baby. You know what I mean? Like I would like to try to avoid so many things, but you know, I want the baby and me to be happy, you know, so I'm eating things just normal. I mean, we were raised as like a meat and potatoes type family, you know, with vegetables and of course the sweet tea, which I don't make as much, but you know, so I'm far removed from it because I feel better, but I know at the same time, as soon as, you know, the baby's born, I've got to go back to, or I will be feeling the 70-year-old lady back in me.
How do you feel about your sugar cravings now? Has it reduced a lot?
The sugar cravings, yeah, the sugar cravings have went, I mean, I would have never guessed that I ate so much sugar. And I even had people joke that I'm a candy-holic. I'm like, what are you talking about? But I'm like, right now I have nothing at my desk, you know, but before I would always have to have something sugary. And we would drink sweet tea for lunch and, you know, supper. And I probably make it twice a week now for us. And, you know, at first the kids were like, there's nothing to drink around here. Well, water, you know, so that's been a healthy change for everybody. But yeah, the sugar cravings have been great.
Yeah. Now, before, so one of the things that you shared in your email was that maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you guys did try for another baby. It just didn't happen. So
Right.
At that time, you know, what was your cycle like then? And were you able to notice any change in your cycle towards the end of the cleanse? Because it is a 45-day cleanse. I used to have endometriosis symptoms. And by the end of the cleanse, or even halfway through the cleanse, and I had a cycle halfway through, I already noticed a big change. So I don't know if you were able to notice a change during the cleanse, but tell me a little bit about a few years ago, you know, how long did you guys try? And then over the last 4 and 5 years, were you, I know you weren't trying, but were you using any protection or not?
Right.
I mean, I'm just curious to see how it might be related.
Right. Well, our first child, a boy, was born when we were 25. And then we had our second one when I was about 29, 30, and another boy. And, you know, you get busy with life and you're doing things, you know, going back and forth. You know, we moved cities and took different jobs and stuff. And I would blame part of it probably on the Candida. I mean, I didn't get full-blown yeast infections, but every time I would go to the doctor and I would tell him that, you know, I have, you know, discharge and stuff. And he would, you know, give me a pap and he'd send off. He'd say, yeah, there's some, you know, yeast in there. We'll give you something over the, you know, counter or something. I'm like, this happens every month. You know, I need something stronger. You know, it's like he wouldn't listen to me. And in my head, I'm thinking I need to change doctors because, you know, he was an older gentleman stuck in his ways probably. And I have changed now since I'm pregnant. But so I feel like even that, I just didn't feel, you know, I'm sure, you know, my sex drive was low, but I just didn't feel like, I don't know, like, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it wasn't like I had itchiness or anything like that, but I just know that there was something wrong, you know? So yeah. I probably didn't, you know, approach my husband, you know, very often and stuff, but we did decide that we wanted to have more kids, and it was probably in our late 30s. And even at 40, my husband's like, we're too old to have kids. I'm like, it's just a number, you know, let's try. So we even tried in our 40s and nothing happened. And so we just assumed that nothing's ever going to happen. You know, we just thought we were done. So I've never been on birth control since my first child. So, I mean, I've been off that for years. And even though my doctor tried to get me to take it for the heavy periods, I didn't want to take it. So, I mean, basically we just were, I guess, taking our chances. I don't know if I answered all your questions, but
I think it does kind of answer the question. And so then it happened. So did you notice like your sex drive levels changed towards the end of the cleanse, or did you notice things changing with your reproductive system before you got pregnant? I know it happens so fast, but if you did notice anything.
My periods were always actually really regular. They just were really, really heavy on the day. And I do think my mental state was a lot better. So I felt more loving. You know, when you don't feel good or you feel like you look pasty or pudgy or, you just don't want that attention because you just feel like, I don't know, you know what I mean? You just don't feel like it. So I think after I started to feel better, things got better. I mean, obviously we conceived a child, so it did get better, but, and like I said, I'm anxious to see, how my periods will be from here, because I don't really get PMS or stuff like that. Besides the breast tissue seems to get more tender and stuff. And another symptom that I did make a note of is I have a vibrating foot. Like my feet will vibrate kind of like a buzz. And my mom has felt it, my husband's felt it, and I mentioned it to the doctor, when you're trying to find solutions. But has anybody mentioned anything like that? Your feet vibrating?
Is it something that is still happening, or it used to happen, or
it used to happen?
It used to happen and it doesn't happen anymore. I think that there can be sensations like all throughout the body, but I used to get it in my head like this, like it was wild. I thought it was really bizarre. And then I felt like almost like a numbness or tingle in my shoulder before, and I've had issues in that shoulder. So I would attribute it to potentially either, we have all these lines of energy and lymphatic system going all throughout the body. And I used to have foot pain, mysterious pain in my feet. I would just get out of bed, I would stand up, and my feet would ache as if like I'd been already on them for hours, but it was just as if they were bruised. It was really bizarre. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was related to bacterial imbalance, infections, a localized infection in your foot or something, and like your body sending blood and resources to try to take care of it. If you used to get it a lot and you notice that it's gone away, then I would say it's very likely related. I think that I remember a few years ago seeing advertisements on TV, and it was like restless leg syndrome. And I was just like, what is this? Like, what are they inventing and creating now to like?
But I've experienced restless leg. Have you not?
I have, but now I think that it has a lot to do with food, energy levels, consumption. Like, if I eat sugars, like too much sugars nowadays, I'll feel jittery in my body, and I'll feel like my legs, I can't sit still, I can't sleep well, and all of these things. So I think it's a number of things that are happening in the body, and the body's trying to cope with it and deal with it. So I have had it. I mean, I used to have a lot of issues, so many issues. I used to have insomnia, I couldn't sleep, I would be restless, my legs. I couldn't sit in a chair without doing this with my legs. Constantly. Everything's different now. I feel like everything's just kind of like, whoosh, I'm just more present. I do think that diet makes a big difference in those levels, like how even keel. There's the American Heart Association recommends that you stay around 25 grams of sugars a day if you're a woman in all forms. And that's basically like, I've experimented with that now for the last few years, and I find that it's very reliable. Like if I can aim to stay about there or less a day, I won't trigger inflammation with sugar consumption. It's like that's kind of how much the liver can handle in a day. And some doctors even say that that's a lot, that's high. So, but as a rule of thumb, I generally try to stay under 25 grams, and then I won't have any pain. I used to have joint pains too. I do think it's a smart idea that after your pregnancy, after you finish, after you wean at the baby, and to do another cleanse. I think it could be a really good thing, just because if your symptoms were hives, it meant it was very systemic. But even in the photo, it's like it was oozing out of your body, it's like it was coming out. And that's kind of why it was so much more intense, that cycle of the hives. You might notice little waves of detox still happening. Pregnancy can trigger detox, actually. It's a very healing thing to be pregnant. I watched this little video that was talking about how the baby and the baby will actually pass stem cells to the mother and help the mother heal things. And I think that's why a lot of women will have like clearer skin and just be like glowing when they're pregnant, feel really good when they're pregnant. And then sometimes women, I think they're going through like a detox process through the pregnancy, and then they'll feel pretty lousy. But I think you could totally support your pregnancy and your healing process from the Candida Cleanser with bone broth, you know, just having that as like a medicine every day without changing everything else too much, not worrying about stressing about changing things, but just adding those nutrients. And it's very healing for the gut. So do you have any?
I mean, the best thing is obviously is the joint pain's gone, but I do feel like I'm more of myself because I'm usually a happy-go-lucky person, optimistic, and you get to a point where you're like, this isn't me, you know, who is this person? And I know sometimes I would get so irritable at my kids, I would say, you know, go put this on the dryer, and you know, I meant the washer, but why can't they read my mind, you know? And then you turn into a total basket case in front of them, and you're, you know, it's embarrassing, but you don't know what to do, you know? So I'm glad my head is back to where it, you know, it should be. And I think that's the worst, even over the physical pains, because, you know, you hurt people, or you're irritable, or you're cranky, you know, and you don't mean to be.
Yeah, I totally understand that too. My partner and I have, we did the cleanse together the last 4 years in a row. Every time during the cleanse, you know, some of that stuff comes out too. So it's fun to do it with a partner. It might test
well, I was even going to ask my husband if he wanted to do it maybe when I'm on maternity leave, because it'll be during Christmas, and so he'll be home a lot. And so I was thinking maybe, you know, I should have him do it then, because I work from home. So, you know, to do this cleanse is easy for me. I can avoid people, but you know, when you have a job and you have to go in, it's a little different. So I thought if he's home, maybe he can be tortured for a few days and, you know, do the cleanse, because I think it'll benefit him. He's all kinds of migraines, you know, and dizziness, and I think it would help him tremendously, you know, so maybe I can talk him into it.
Absolutely. And we have a video in our YouTube channel. It's a woman, her name is Misty, and she had chronic migraines since she was like 7 or 8 years old. I think she would get them twice a week. I think one time she told a story, she had a migraine for a month straight, and she was hospitalized a few times, and nobody ever had a solution. They wanted to like put Botox in her head and stuff. She did 1 round of Candida Cleanser, and I think she had like 1 migraine after that. But then since then, she's been basically migraine free, maybe a few headaches here and there, just like from accidentally eating something. But like to go from your whole, like almost your whole life, just like you, like since 2nd grade, having these chronic issues every day for so many years, and then to have them disappear, it's like, it just frees you. Suddenly you have all this space and all this energy to do what you love instead. So you might want to show him that video, because I know I used to have migraines too. I used to get them at least once a month. I haven't had them in years now. So,
and see, I don't hardly even get headaches. So to see him have a migraine and he'll be sick and the next day he's just laying around, I don't get it, because I mean, even a headache to me would be very rare, you know? So yeah, it'd be nice if you do it.
And that's interesting too, of just seeing how it affects different people. You know, for you, it manifests as hives, as joint pain, but for somebody else, it manifests as migraines or lots of digestive issues or acne. So it's such an interesting issue. Candida is such an interesting issue. So that, again, I'm so appreciative of you for coming on and agreeing to share your story. I love the photos that you posted on Facebook, and I read your story about the reveal, the gender reveal.
Yeah,
and I thought
and it is a girl. I don't think I told anybody that. 2 boys, and now we have a girl. So yeah, you know, I feel like it's fate. You know, a lot of people look at me like they feel sorry for me. Oh, you're 44 and you're having a baby, but I love it. I'm glad it's my story. You know, it's pretty awesome.
It is awesome. And I think that you have now taken steps, and you're taking steps that are adding years onto your life. And, you know, my parents are on the cleanse right now. And it's just, for me, I'm just like, I know that it's the most amazing thing. I gave them bottles like over a year ago, and they didn't do it. Now they're finally doing it. And I think it could be beneficial to anybody living in the modern world who's dealing with these things. And So how do would you recommend the cleanse? So obviously you're saying you want your husband to do it. Like,
Yeah.
you feel like it's made a big enough difference in your life that you would recommend it to other people.
And like you say, I read a lot of testimonials because everybody's story is a little bit different. Everybody has their own complaints, and it's hard to believe that a little bottle can cure or help, or at least get you to where you're feeling normal. With so many different things going on, you can be a skeptic, because how can you cure this and cure mine, and then you say you can cure? So it's very hard. But after you read so many testimonials, you're just like, well, why not try it? I mean, where am I going to go from here? The doctors aren't going to help me. They're just going to mask the issue and stuff. So I've actually mentioned it. I did tell my mom, and she's like, well, it looks like there's pesticide in it. I don't think you should take this, and I read up on it, and as long as you read, and you fully understand what you're getting into, it all makes sense. So I recommend it to quite a few people, but it's so hard to get them and to urge them into trying it, something new, because, for the price that it costs and the life it gives you back, it does sound too good to be true,
Yeah, it does kind of seem almost too good to be true, but it also, I think it just shows how some things are a lot simpler than maybe they've been made out to be.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
And then just to clarify, just in case for our viewers, that the reason why sometimes people might mistake lufeneron, pharmaceutical grade lufeneron, for a pesticide is because lufeneron destroys the exoskeleton of Candida, and it also destroys the exoskeleton of fleas, because fleas and fungal Candida share the same kind of exoskeleton. There's certain organisms on our planet that build their exoskeleton out of the same material, and those are fleas, ticks, cockroaches, certain crustaceans that live in the ocean, and then certain fungus, including fungal Candida. So actually, yes, lufeneron is sometimes used as a pesticide. However, it's probably the most non-toxic compound in its pure form, pharmaceutical form, that you could use for treating a human body and destroying fungal Candida, because it's so basic that it doesn't have any chemical reactions in the body. The only thing it does is it just breaks down the chitin layer of these organisms, and human beings do not have a chitin function. We don't produce chitin in our human body. And so that's where the misconception comes from. And so if you go search, yes, you're right, lufeneron, there is a pesticide grade lufeneron. What you want is a pharmaceutical grade lufeneron. The Candida Cleanser uses a pure pharmaceutical grade lufeneron. And that's why when people do multiple, or even as you do your whole cleanse, by the end of the cleanse, you're not really feeling die-off anymore if one bottle is enough for that person. Some people, it's much more intense. They have a lot more buildup, so they might need more bottles, but also towards the end of the cleanse, they're not feeling the same. It's not as intense as the first one. So I've taken the cleanse 4 years in a row. Every time it's less, I feel less. I almost didn't feel any die-off this past time. Just there were 3 days that I had a little bit of a rough moment, passing something out of my gut. But other than that, I almost had nothing. So compared to my very first cleanse, I was achy, I was sleeping, I was headachy, I had a lot of stuff coming out, like literally goo was coming out of my body. So to me, it's very obvious that the compound doesn't do anything to the human body at all. So just to clarify that. And so yeah, I think, unless you have any questions for me, I'm just so grateful for...
Well, I have shared my story, especially, with getting pregnant, because people are like, what is going on, And I said, well, I did do this Candida cleanse. So I've actually told a lot of people about it, but 2 people in particular that have been trying to have kids and they haven't had any luck. I did send them your links and your info for them. And so they're very interested. I think both of them basically replied that they're on their last regimen of whatever the doctor has given them and stuff, but they want to try it because, they're having trouble and stuff. So, but I feel very fortunate. I mean, this wasn't what I was expecting. I thought, if I could get rid of the joint pain and the brain fog, and if I could even just lose 15 pounds, like people claim that they're losing weight, I mean, that would be an added bonus. Well, I kind of went the extreme and I'm gaining weight, but it's all for a good cause.
That's so funny. Will you please keep me posted if any of your friends that you recommend have success conceiving after they complete the cleanse? Will you let me know? And
yeah,
please invite them to the Facebook group. So
yeah,
that
I
they
already have.
Okay, awesome, perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sheila. I'm so happy for you guys. It's just such a wonderful story. And I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I'm so happy to hear that the joint pain has reduced or completely gone away, that you're pain-free. I think that's amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been amazing. I can't believe it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everybody who watched this video. All of the links are below. I highly recommend that you join our Facebook group. It's really wonderful and supportive in there. And there's a pinned post in that Facebook group at the top of the page that has tons of resources, everything you need to know to figure out where you're at, what stage you're at, and how to get started. So thanks again, Sheila, and I'll see you guys in our next video. Much love.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.